As we get ready for today's story, I want to teach you a song that has words that come from the Bible. This song comes from the book of Philippians. When Paul was in prison, he wrote a letter to his friends, and that letter became the book of Philippians. And Paul didn't want his friends to feel worried about him. He wanted them to know that God was giving him strength and joy, even in a dark and lonely prison. And these are words that can give us courage when we face hard times too. I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. Let's do it one more time. Here's our starting note. I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. When God created the world, before there was anything, there was love. God made a big world with lots of people, and God loved each one and called them by their names. But the people didn't all know each other. As they met, they did not love each other the way that God loved them. The way that God dreamed they would. Instead, many were afraid of their differences and believed a lie, believing that some people were better than other people. Because of their differences. For a long time, the lie was so strong that it was dangerous and hard to fight against. Many just decided to leave it the way it was. Then, a man from India named Gandhi and a black professor named Howard Thurman remembered what Jesus said. They uncovered the ugliness of the lie and how it hurt Black people. They did it without hurting anyone and by working together. In Chicago, at a coffee shop, the white owners refused to serve Mr. James Farmer because he was Black. Mr. James and his white friend, Jimmy, brought their white and Black friends together to the shop, and they sat in all the seats so that no one else could be served until the shop agreed to serve all of them. The white owner of the shop didn't know what to do. Eventually, he did serve everyone, and all the Black and white people ate donuts and coffee together. The lie rumbled, but it didn't go away. Without hurting anyone, Mr. James Farmer continued his work to make white people understand what it looked like to treat all people equally. But it was getting more dangerous. Now, when he and his friends went to the coffee shop, they didn't get served coffee, but got hot coffee poured all over them. White people were getting angry that Mr. James was making them look at the ugly lie. Mr. James inspired another black man named Mr. John Lewis, who started working against the lie that caused racism when he was a teenager. Mr. John was tired of waiting for white people to understand how much the lie had separated the world from God's dream. So he thought he'd show them by making some trouble for white people, what he called good trouble, because he did it with love and not with hate. Mr. John led many friends, black and white, on a march to demand that white people and black people be treated fairly. All they did was to walk together across a bridge, but the police got very angry and hurt them very badly. This is what usually happened when black people tried to fight the lie. But this time there were TV cameras. Now everyone could see how unfair the lie was, even though it was scary. Mr. John and his friends were not afraid because they could feel that Jesus was with them. Many more black and white people were fighting together too, like Mrs. Rosa Parks, and the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. by showing white people how they were not treating black people as children of God. They tried to show them about the lie and how unfair it was. And many times when things were scary, they could feel God come close to them, and they came close to God. The lie that caused racism rumbled, and it eventually broke. The laws changed to make sure that the lie would stop separating people because of their color. Black people won the chance to have the same opportunities as white people. Many people gave their lives for this new freedom. This was called the struggle for civil rights. Again, just because the laws changed and the lie that caused racism had been broken in some places, it did not go away. Many white people came to see how ugly the lie was, how unfairly black people had been treated, and how they'd believed a lie about who God was. They didn't want to look at the lie anymore. So instead of doing the hard work of getting rid of the lie, they pretended it had gone away and even tried to cover it up. They didn't like to talk about the lie and got quiet if anyone mentioned it. They didn't realize it was hurting them too. White people soon forgot about the lie, and when the first black man, Mr. Barack Obama, was elected president, many people said it was proof that the lie was gone forever. But soon they learned they were wrong. Black people are often treated unfairly by the police because fear separates them from seeing black people as God sees them. Black parents have to tell their children special ways to talk to police officers to make sure they don't get hurt unfairly. This had been true for a long time, but with phones that have cameras, everyone started to see the lie. Sadly, there are too many Black people who died unfairly to remember them all here. But one person was Mr. George Floyd. His name might be one that you've heard of because he died after you were born. George Floyd's death helped many people see that the lie that had caused racism was very much still with us today. Now that you know what the lie looks like, maybe when you notice it, you'll remember not to believe in it. God's dream isn't finished until the fear that separates us is replaced by love, until all people are treasured by each other just as much as they are by God. Now that may sound impossible, but when we work together and ask for God's help, all things are possible. Do you remember what the Apostle Paul said when he was in prison? I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. With God's help, you can remember that you are dearly loved by God and that your neighbor is just as loved as you are. No one is better than anyone else. With God's help, you can know that you're forgiven and loved, even when you're not perfect. With God's help, you can get the courage to keep going, even when things are scary. And with each other's help, we can find the strength to make the lie go away forever. Now, I wonder where you are in this story. I wonder where you've noticed the lie in your world. I wonder where love is in this story. I wonder where you've seen love in the world around you.